We have seen how software and hardware digital assets will make the educator's experience much more productive, efficient, and enjoyable. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on one other very important asset, which is called as information assets. Right? So we will be trying to understand the digital forms of physical content, and we will also try to understand what do we mean by born digital content and why is it important to understand this distinction between the two. The most common form of information are the digital forms of physical content, right? So we are talking about, say, documents, right? So documents can be books, which are, you can have a physical book, the equivalent of that in the form of an e-book or in the form of a PDF, okay? In fact, I would like to take a minute to even distinguish between PDF and an e-book, right? So PDF is a lot more passive, whereas an e-book is allows you to be much more interactive with your own book. So it allows you to access that particular content in a non-linear manner. What do I mean by non-linear manner? Right. So when you look at a PDF, you can go only page by page by page. If you're looking for one specific topic, you have to scan through all the pages to figure out what the section or the chapter that you're looking for. Whereas if you're looking at an ebook, it is all nicely organized. You can jump to any chapter that is of your interest. The glossary is there. And they also have ability to add annotations and so on. So that is nevertheless, that is still a digital form of what is a physical book. Okay, papers, right? So these are, when I'm talking about papers, I'm talking about, it could be a conference paper, it could be a journal paper, and so on. So again, these are some things that this could be papers written by us, this could be paper that you have downloaded from somewhere. So that is always there. And of course, I don't have to tell you about presentations and documents, other documents, right? So that is possibly that constitutes a large percentage of digital information that you're dealing with, right? So I completely agree. On top of that, right? So the other type of information asset that is becoming more and more prevalent is the visual contents, right? So which is, it could be in the form of pictures, photographs, right? So now we would like to illustrate, depending upon which discipline we are teaching, it becomes a lot more effective to show pictures of, from the site. If you are trying to illustrate some concept in, say, civil engineering, so it is possibly, or mechanical engineering and so on. So it is very useful to show images, right? So the pictures are there. And there could be images that are generated, that are curated. Now we talk about drawings. Now these days we are talking about digital drawings of various things, of various plans, right? So that kind of visual content sharing is also becoming very prevalent, right? In fact, there is a good old saying, right? A picture is worth, 100 words, 1,000 words, pick your number. But the thing is, visual, more and more utilization of visual content as part of our own instructional material makes it very effective, right? So that is something that we should always strive for, okay? Again, when we are talking about content management, I will touch upon that a little bit more in the future modules. Now, in addition to those pictures, images, and drawings, audio-visual content, right, is something that we as educators deal with day in and day out, right? Videos of talks, videos of lecture, right? So this is something that we should be comfortable handling, right? So how do you, more than when I'm saying handling, so consumption of that is probably comes to us naturally, right? So we could be watching those videos in an online platform, right? So which is recorded and available. It gets streamed to you. That is still not very tricky, but the ability to work to create videos, the ability to create podcasts and so on. So this also will enhance your own abilities and possibly your skills as well, so that you can communicate with a wider set of people, right? Suppose you are comfortable with the digital tools necessary to create video content. Wouldn't it be great for you to run your own blog with your own videos and post it or put it out, so that enhances your own reputation and makes you a much more effective teacher? Okay. Along similar lines, we are talking about audio only content, which are called as podcasts, right? So this could be short, just audio only content that you could be recording and releasing on a day-to-day basis, right? Just to share small tips, right? So that is something that can be quite satisfying, that you are able to create and share it with people, whatever comes to your mind in terms of how to overcome a specific problem, how to give some tips for an examination, right? So these are all very nice things that you can do in the digital world. Okay, so the point is that there are this physical content, right? So we are speaking, which is more of a physical activity. The equivalent of that comes in the form of an audio. So you are teaching in front of a class and delivering a lecture. Now that the digital equivalent of that is in the form of a recorded video, right? So my point is that these are digital forms of physical content. So you have to look around you and say that which of this physical content is relevant for me, for the courses that I am teaching, and you have to bring them in, right? So you will be a lot more effective teacher if you are able to, so you are teaching a course in mechanical engineering, and suddenly you want to say that if this particular engine is having some malfunction, this is the kind of sound it is going to make, and if this is the kind of sound it is making, this could be the problem. So how do you communicate that effectively, right? If you are able to capture the video of that faulty equipment, if not the video, if there's nothing visually that's happening, but it's just the sound, even the audio recording of that particular faulty machinery can be shared with the class, and it better conveys your what you want to convey, and then a lot more impactful in terms of the learning, right? So I would like, from a digital literacy point of view, the ability to integrate these different kinds of physical content into your own lessons is something that will be very useful. And when we talk about born digital content, okay, born digital content means what? When you look around, there is no physical equivalent of that, right? So if you are watching a video of somebody delivering in a class, yes, the equivalent of that is somebody physically standing in front of a class and delivering the lecture. But what is the physical equivalent of email? Nothing, right? Yes, we can loosely argue that it is a physical equivalent of an email is the mail itself, the letter, the good old letters. But then email is a lot more than what a letter can be, right? Was ever it was. So, which means that email is something that I'm sure it has again become the primary school of digital literacy. But having said that, there are a lot of specific things that usage of email requires, right? So now, you can look around and talk about, say, email etiquette, right? So when we talk about email etiquette, there are things that you are supposed to do. There are things that you are not supposed to do. How do even the email tools have become so intelligent that you should utilize, you should organize your email you should write your email in a particular way for the tool to help you organize. Let me take just one example of that, right? So there's a concept called threading in emails, right? What is threading in emails? Threading in emails is the ability to look at the whole thread of discussions on the same topic. Now, what constitutes the same topic? The email subject becomes the binding element for this whole topic. So, if you have lots and lots of emails that are going back and forth, having the same email subject, right? The email tool will allow you to click on one plus button and then look at all those emails in one place. This is just a small tip, an example of what email literacy would mean, right? Because as I said, the ability to send emails is given. How do we do that efficiently? Now, the same thing, if you are unaware of this concept of threading of emails, what you might do is somebody sent you an email and you want to respond to that email. Instead of pressing the reply button, you draft a new email, just like the good old letter writing. You draft a new email, then you start typing, then the email tool loses track that these two emails are related to each other, and the very fact that the second email that you sent happens to be a reply of the first one. That can happen only if you press the reply button, because the email tool will preserve the headers that are necessary for it to be stitched together and hold together. So that is from the creation perspective. As a user of the email tool itself, you should go and explore the settings of your email tool, right? So one of the options that will be available is display emails based on threads. Okay, so you have to be comfortable enough to activate that. So what will happen is the whole set of conversations, so they are also called as conversations in the email tool lingo. They will say, they will use the term called threads, or they will use the term called conversations. So you should enable that option so that all discussions are there in one place, because there could be conversations that are spanning across several days, if not several months, right? So that becomes an extremely useful technique. So these are all small tips, but when I'm talking about email, so this is something, there is a lot more ways of familiarity that you have to get into as far as from a email literacy point of view. Etiquette is one side, the capabilities of the tools and efficient and effective use is also another thing. Okay. Born digital content, another one is information entered in online forms, right? So application forms. So application forms, people enter the data. So you should know how to work with information that comes from information forms. This is, again, it has got its own set of challenges, because the information that you're getting in the forms, is it coming in a very clean form? Is it in a very haphazard form? Firstly, you should you should be familiar with what are the best practices associated with creating application forms and things like that, right? And of course, as an instructor, this is probably not something that you will be doing on a day-to-day basis, so I will not talk much about it. But at the most, you should be aware of how to get that information, download it in the form of a file, how to process that information, and so on, right? Let me give you a specific example of to do and not to do, right? So you have an online form. Somebody has said that you have collected that particular information and they want to share that information with you. Okay. For example, assume that you have identified your class representative. You have floated a survey saying that, do you want to conduct special class on this Saturday, and what topic do you want it on, right? So it could be a Google form or something. Now, if I want that information to be sent to me, I can, the tool will allow you to download it or each response as a single file, right? But that is not the way to utilize that particular form, right? You're not going to be reading each form and then trying to understand. So you should, you should be able to download it in the form of an Excel file, and then quickly you can apply different filters, which I will be talking about in the handling data module. But what I'm trying to say here is that these are born digital content have to be handled in a different way, especially if it is information entered online. Printed content from digital information, right? No, this is the reverse. Previously, in the previous slide, we talked about digital forms of physical content. Here, we are creating physical content from born digital, right? So, mark sheets, for example, is a great example of how to deal with it, right? So, mark sheets, certificates, and so on, which means that you should be, again, here also I will tell you two different ways, right? So, the correct way and the incorrect way. And I will show you how to do it the correct way as well in subsequent videos. So let me talk about the incorrect way. Now, suppose you are maintaining the results of this transcript itself. One way of maintaining it is you say one transcript for every student as a separate file, maybe in a Word document. All of them have the template, and any updates that are needed, you will open that particular student's mark sheet and then you manually go and update, right? That is not the way to manage that particular born digital asset, right? So yes, sure enough, you can print it, so it can still serve the purpose, but that is not an efficient way of doing it. Can you combine Excel, a spreadsheet program, link it to this particular Word document, which will automatically populate the document once you update the Excel file? Wouldn't that be cool, right? So these are some of the things that you have to, think about whenever you are dealing with born digital content. And I would like to highlight that specifically on this particular point, when I am talking about handling data and managing content, I will be focusing on specific techniques that you can use to do that, because I know that is possibly one of the most relevant things for you as an educator. Okay. Lastly, we cannot ignore social media. Social media is one of the biggest sources of born digital content. So social media for an educator, it can be both, we can be a producer, we can be a consumer, right? So being a consumer, there are lots of ways in which the modern generation utilizes social media, right? So we should be familiar with it. Is now becoming part of the digital literacy requirement, that you understand what is a reel, what is a hashtag, right? So how do you organize these little messages in the form of these tags, and how do you retrieve it, how do you access it, how do you track it? That is from a consumer point of view. Along similar lines, if we also need to embrace the ability to utilize social media as an educational tool as well. And when we are doing that, we have to be able to know, we should know how to do it in the correct way, in a responsible way, in an accessible way, and so on. So this is also part of how to manage a born digital content. So social media plays a big role in the education space these days. Okay, so that is in brief, at a large level, what is information all about, what are the different kinds of assets we are talking about. We talked about software assets, we talked about hardware assets, and then we talked about information assets. So from a digital literacy point of view, you should have at least be heard about these things. That is my objective of the first module, which is on digital literacy itself, right? Introduction to digital literacy. Okay. Going forward, I have at least 2 modules where we will talk about data handling for educators, which is where we will do some hands-on activities as well using spreadsheet programs, and following that I have efficient document management as well, wherein I will introduce you to certain techniques and tips which will make your work a lot more efficient.